Hi there, welcome to Tarotland Soap Opera. Today I'm going to do a reading for Capricorn energy, and like usual, we're going to do two rows. The top row we'll refer to as high vibe Capricorn energy. The bottom row, a more worldly... did I say high vibe? This isn't kind of... Well, it's all part of the reading. We can see that I'm kind of having some blurbs with how I'm trying to speak. Maybe some people are experiencing that in their Capricorn energy. Anyway, the top row is high vibe Capricorn. The bottom row are more worldly, shadowy Capricorn energy. We all have to make decisions in our life because we have free will. And some people could be struggling within themselves. In high vibe energy, shadowy Capricorns represented by the devil. I view high vibe Capricorn as the King of Pentacles, which can be male or female, which can be where you really learn lessons in life and you've grown and healed and matured yourself, so you're not letting your more shadowy nature of fear, insecurity, and pride and ego and all those kind of things run your life. And there might be some people who would like to move forward in life differently, but they could have some fears and some insecurities, or just stepping out of their comfort zone, or maybe speaking their truth, living their truth, being authentically who they are, or being loving and getting out of their fear of love and fear of being hurt. For some people, that can all be challenging, and some people aren't ready to do that yet. They may never be ready to do that yet. It is slow, steady steps of progress. There might be some people in the world, needless that people, if nothing else, we read about it on the news. Some people are very shadowy. Some people are very hurtful, unkind, prideful, egotistical, self-centered, full of themselves, manipulative, try to use all these things of the world to try to manipulate other people. Could try to use the love that people have for other people, or the love that they know people have for them, to try to manipulate them, to get them to do what they want. But they may never plan to heal, grow, mature themselves, get more balanced within themselves. Because we have our dualistic nature, we can kind of be tipped out of balance in a more loving way, where we do kind of indulge people in their poor behavior, or we're kind of tipped out of balance in our shadowy nature, where, and of course, if we don't want to see the truth of it. If people are more immature, more egotistical, more driven by ego or materialism or indulgence, they kind of want to stay in denial of the truth and not acknowledge the truth to themselves. They can try to prevent other people from trying to see the truth about who they are. Anyway, all those things kind of might come up in the story. And the shadow row cards fell on the floor, so maybe really don't want to be seen, trying to hide underneath the table. Well, let's just do the shadow row first. We have the Five of Cups, the Seven of Pentacles, the High Priestess, the Chariot, the Knight of Cups, and the Queen of Wands. And the reason that came out is because of the Three of Swords. So, the Three of Swords can talk about we've all been heartbroken before, right? And the whole thing is the Three of Swords comes after the Two of Swords. We have a lot of lessons to learn in life. Life is about learning lessons. There's a lot of things we don't know. And we've all been more authentic and loving and hopeful and believing in our life, right? And we've all went through experiences where things didn't work out the way we wanted. And some people stay in that energy. I tried to do love and it didn't work out. And some people have had very hurtful and unkind people in their life. So we have to decide if we're going to stay in this more shadowy energy. The Five of Cups can talk about, I have been, or I currently am, in relationships with people who didn't work together with me cooperatively in love. And we have the free will choice to have hope and faith and belief in our dreams. And this card kind of reminds me of another card in a different deck also that is Capricorn energy. And it is kind of about putting in this work and effort again to keep believing in ourselves. But it does. Capricorn is earth sign energy. It is about putting in work and effort. How do you free yourself from the devil? By playing poor, pitiful me, being sad. We have to deal with the truth. The Two of Swords can talk about being stuck. We have the free will to decide, do I stay in hurtful, unkind relationships with people? If I'm not a child anymore, I have free will to choose differently. If I've been in relationships with other people who are hurtful and unkind, did I learn the lesson that some people are hurtful and unkind and deceptive and manipulative and prideful and egotistical? Am I going to keep working with people like that? Am I going to listen to my intuition? And the Three of Swords and the Two of Swords and the Four of Swords are all Libra energy, talking about what do we think is just and fair, and are we balanced within ourselves? Some people, because they're sad and they've been heartbroken before, and they maybe didn't put in work and effort to free themselves from that energy. Sometimes they don't like other people to free themselves from that energy. And if you're not heartbroken and sad, and you're more hopeful and believing and loving and balanced, I might purposely do things to try to make you sad. Because if I'm sad and heartbroken, I want other people to be sad and heartbroken, right? But, some people saw the truth. I can stay stuck. I can wait for other people to love me, or I can love me. And I can be my own best mother, father, coach, voice in my own head. And I can treat myself with love and respect and kindness and compassion. I can offer love and compassion to those hurtful, unkind people in my life. So they don't keep, the devil, the bottom row, can kind of, again, representing shadowy energy, which are the big pictures kind of represented by the devil. I'm not going to let people who are hurtful and unkind, and maybe unjust and unfair, I'm not going to let people like that keep me in negative energy. I have a dream. I've just seen the truth. If there's people in the world that are still more focused on the relationships of the past and past pain and heartbreak, or trying to cause other people pain and heartbreak and sadness, I don't want to hang out with them. And I'm going to see the truth of it, offer love to it, because love is the answer to getting us unstuck. Love is the answer for us to get justice in our life. And I see who's just, who's fair, who's emotionally mature, loving, stable, grounded, is who they say they are. And I see who isn't. And I'm going to take the lessons I've learned from that life experience, that next time I meet someone and they kind of act like that, I'm going to listen to my intuition and these lessons I've learned to move away from them. They are not aligned. The light can be, they're not enlightened people. They're not aligned with life-giving energy. So high vibe people do that work within themselves. Then we have the Seven of Pentacles, which talks about, some people, the Seven of Pentacles is Taurus energy, which can have to do for all of us what our philosophy of life is. Some people's philosophy of life is, I am sad, I'm heartbroken, I'm waiting for someone to come invest in me. I'm waiting for someone to come love me. Well, if people even do come and invest in us, but this is the energy that we're in, who's going to want to keep staying in that energy with us? Can they understand it? Have they been hurt and heartbroken before? Yes, but they might want to move forward in life differently. The High Priestess, it's kind of, the feminine figures can talk about connecting in with our emotions and our intuition. We have to listen to our higher self. We don't have to, we have the free will. High vibe energy is what are my dreams? What motivates me? What inspires me? What is my long term goal of Capricorn energy, of what I think is victorious and successful? And part of that is to, I want to grow up to be a version of myself, which is kind of what the higher self talks about, that I can be proud of. So I offer love to Taurus is our sign energy. We all kind of are really motivated by these things of the world when we're growing up and we have a more worldly view of life. We invested in those things. We maybe turned our back on listening to our intuition. Things maybe didn't work out the way we wanted. And we learned maybe I should start listening to my intuition. Because some of those things I went to go invest in, my intuition could have been telling me, I don't think that's a good idea. You shouldn't do that. I don't think this is going to end well. But we've all got lessons to learn about listening to our intuition. And hopefully as we do that enough times, we kind of realize if I kind of keep indulging myself in my shadow nature, indulging my more immature nature, I'm probably going to keep repeating the same pattern. And this probably isn't going to end up well for me. And I need to quit letting, our shadow nature can just be our more immature, self-indulgent, I don't want to heal and grow and mature myself nature. Well, you can keep doing that. Some people are doing that. They're not listening to their intuition. Things might not work out the way they think they're going to work out because they have some lessons to learn in life. Other people did learn some lessons and they started to listen to their intuition. Next time, maybe my intuition tells me, I don't think that's a good idea. You shouldn't do that. I don't think this is going to end up well. We listen to it. It's like, what? Some people are very loving, nurturing people, and it's like, oh, look, there's someone who's sad and who's heartbroken. I'm a very loving, nurturing person. I'm going to go try to change them. The Five of Cups, the fives can talk about change. I'm going to go try to change them. I'm going to offer them love and hope and faith and belief, and I'm sure they'll choose love and hope and faith and belief. But we're maybe not seeing the truth. If they're not a very loving or balanced or emotionally mature or stable, grounded person and haven't learned some of the same lessons we've learned to be a loving, more balanced, emotionally mature, stable, grounded person, it might be because they keep kind of indulging their more worldly nature or their more immature nature, and they have some lessons to learn in life. And I think as we have learned some lessons in life, we know some of those big lessons about loving ourselves and maturing ourselves and not indulging ourselves, that can take years and decades. Some people like to play that role, though, in people's life. Loving people like to play that role in people's life, but sometimes shadowy people, I like to play that role in people's life, so I purposely go find people who are sad and heartbroken because, that can be like the energy of the devil, right? Like, I want people to view me as this loving, nurturing person like God. The only thing is, they want them to kind of stay in that energy. Because if they were to get more balanced within themselves, the hurt person gets more healed and balanced within themselves, then they want a more just and fair and balanced relationship. And some people don't like a more just and fair relationship. No, I like to view myself as loving. I like you to view me as loving. You were sad, you were heartbroken. You stay there, and I'll play the role of being this loving and nurturing person. Then we have the Chariot, the Knight of Cups, and the Queen of Wands. And the Queen of Wands in shadow can represent that people are operating more from their ego. And it can be, again, I kind of might have an idea. Because if you were stuck in the Two of Swords, in order to get unstuck, you have an idea. High vibe people went through situations, they felt stuck, they did listen and were, in high vibe Queen of Wands, inspired by truth and love. I'm going to offer truth and love to these things that didn't work out in my life. I'm going to take those lessons that I've learned, incorporate those into how I make decisions moving forward, because Taurus energy kind of dictates the decisions that we make in our life because it is our philosophy of life. So I need to take the lessons I've learned from these life experiences, incorporate those into how I make decisions moving forward. One of those, listening to my intuition. And if I do want to move forward, the Chariot can talk about moving forward. You know, I've got to quit letting my ego stop me and my fear and my insecurity. The Knight of Cups can be us kind of living in illusion and not wanting to see the truth. That if I want to not keep repeating this old pattern, I have got to get in the driver's seat of my own life in the Chariot. I do have my dualistic nature. I have to quit letting my ego nature kind of get me caught up in illusion, letting other people get me caught up in illusion. You know, I can offer people peace and love and then I move on, kind of stay at a distance. If my intuition tells me I'm going to meet all sorts of people in the world, and the Taurus energy can represent all these institutions of the world. I'm going to meet people at work. I'm going to meet people at my church, in my social groups, in my neighborhood, in my family, in my friend group. Taurus represents all those institutions of the world. That I can be a loving, offer people love and encouragement to move forward in love and to love themselves and believe in themselves. But until my intuition tells me that they are more emotionally balanced from a place of love, I might be kind of heartbroken because some of those people I might really be more attracted to. I'd like to move forward with them in a more love-based relationship. But if they're still harnessing this energy in a more shadowy way, and they haven't worked through their regrets of the past and their past pain and heartbreak to be in a more inspired by love and emotional balance and kind of healed from those things, you know, because that would be the next phase after the Three of Swords is the Four of Swords. That we have reflected on the truth, we have dealt with the truth, we have worked through these issues, learned to love ourselves, seen through the illusion, seen through the fear, or the insecurity, or the codependency, or whatever, and make the free will choice. I choose to move forward in a more emotionally balanced, loving way. And if they were to do that, then I would be willing to get in a relationship with them. And it is kind of interesting because this horse almost looks like it is made out of water, like it's not really existing in the 3D realm. So in a way, the water realm in tarot can talk about the intuitive realm, the imaginative realm. You know, you energetically could be sending peace and love, and that's what you do when you're in the energy of love. You know, you're kind of energetically wishing people peace and love and encouragement, but you're going to maybe keep your distance until you see that people are more emotionally balanced. And because there are some people that stay in this energy and who hide. Shadowy High Priestess can be, I hide from love. And then it can be, I create the illusion I'm willing to bring love into reality, but I'm just trying to manipulate people to get them to do what I want. It was just an illusion I was creating. And you might know some people like that create the illusion that they're willing to do love and they want to be in relationships, but they haven't worked through their pain and heartbreak of, or their own issues within themselves, maybe, to really do love. And they keep, it can just be, shadowy. The Queen of Wands I view as Leo energy. Shadowy Leo energy can be being in our self-protective defensive nature. And the Libra sign is also represented, I view it as the King of Swords. And the King of Swords can be like our self-protective, self-defensive nature. There's people in the world that would like to give birth to something new. But for some, because of their philosophy of life, which could be that I did make the free will choice, that I don't even want to, I want to hide from my more loving, intuitive nature, because I think life is more about appearing to get justice in the world, and that's more important to me. And, Capricorn energy can be, what do we view as victorious and like a legacy to leave behind? Well, some people, it is sadly, and it can make them sad too, they harness a more worldly Taurus philosophy of life, which shadowy Taurus that anyone can harness. It is more about having a certain status, an image, and power, and money, and things like that in the world. Because that is kind of the game of the world, right? That's why people might talk about you and how much land you owned, or how high of a you were in your career field, or how much money you had, or something, And for some people, that can be what they invest their time, energy, and effort into, and made the free will choice to make their life more about that than love. And other people were intuitive about it. They could have been in a relationship with them, could have had love for them. The Chariot is Cancer energy. The Knight of Cups is Pisces. I would like to move forward in a relationship with you, but if you're kind of tipped out of balance, and some people like, again, these kind of more mismatched relationships, how about you be loving and nurturing and creative and inspired, and I be more heartbroken and maybe a little more emotionally detached and maybe a little more emotionally shallow and superficial, but maybe I put in this work and effort, and that's what I invested my time and energy in, to is having certain status or image, or improve my looks, or be good looking, or have social clout, and other people could have went about life in a more balanced way, but they can be, we all do want these things in the world. We all want to be in a relationship. Taurus energy and Capricorn energy can be people who look like they have those traits, characteristics, and ways of being in the world that we view as seeming like stable, grounded, victorious, successful people. And so people will want to be, are attracted to get in a relationship with them. But then, we maybe didn't listen to our intuition. We move forward in relationship with some of those people. And then as time went by, we kind of realized we harness our Leo energy different. That, and we all, it's kind of like, we kind of have a universe of self within ourselves. We have our water sign energies, our Cancer, Pisces, and Scorpio nature. We have our earth sign nature. We all harness all four elements, and we all have the different traits and characteristics of the zodiac signs, but some people are more tipped in favor of them harnessing them in a more high vibe way. Some people are a little more worldly, some people are a little more shadowy. And we're kind of, to find people who are most on the same page as us, we're kind of trying to find people who are kind of on the same page as us at the same time. But we can all have gotten in relationships because we were heartbroken. We could have all gotten in relationships because we were sad. Some other relationship didn't work out. And then, in our Taurus energy, initially it can seem like we do have a lot of things in common. You know, we could kind of live in the same town. We could maybe go to the same church, go to similar type of activities that we like to enjoy. Again, Taurus energy can talk about all those things. We kind of have a lot of things in common in kind of this worldly, like, oh, I like that too, and I go there all the time too, and I love doing that. I know those people, I love those people. Or we work at the same job, right? But one person could be hiding, this is for the people that we were kind of more mismatched with. One person could have been hiding, they could use their emotions in a more manipulative way. We can all use our emotions, our sexuality, our words, our charm, our looks, our money, our resources, like a scam artist. We can all use them in a more manipulative way, which would be a more immature way. Other people might have put more work and effort into being inspired to be more balanced. That I didn't make my life just about me or the world. And I did spend time also appreciating my emotional nature and maybe working through my regrets of the past to be more balanced within myself and maybe some of my self-limiting beliefs and my more worldly nature. So my worldly nature and making these things the world the end all be all in my life. I kind of might have a little more balanced view of life, but some people are definitely more aligned with and more motivated emotionally to get in relationships with people. Other people might want to be in relationships with people like that, but they might be either because they haven't learned to love themselves, so they're looking to get in a relationship for someone to love them, and they could think that is the answer to them healing from past pain and heartbreak, or they really didn't focus really on their emotional nature so much, but they might have a lot more stability, security, social cloud, things like that, whatever, and or their image or their status or something. And so it can be a mismatched relationship where our truth is different. It kind of reminds me of the Two of Pentacles, which is Capricorn energy. One person might have a more loving, hopeful, believing nature. The other person might have more of some of these things of the world that people want in a more worldly sense. And it can kind of seem to be a nice compliment or a balance, and it can even work out for quite a long time in a relationship. But relationships, like everything else, kind of grow and mature, and just like all these things that you kind of have to negotiate in a relationship, like we might have liked being friends in high school, but then we all go to college, it's kind of like a different ball game. Do we still like being friends there? And, people can get in a relationship, and then they can have a kid. That's a different ball game, and it's just all these different things to negotiate. And for some people, you can be in relationships with them for a really long time. And it does get down to kind of like the core truth of what really drives and motivates us. And then there could be issues about what we think is just and fair. But we could get down to a core issue. If a relationship's going to keep moving forward, our high vibe energy is being more independent and freeing yourself from your more immature or defensive or egoic or full of yourself or whatever nature, right? And so then it could get down to, at a core foundational level, what kind of drives us and what our truth is. Are we more willing to be more authentically ourselves in the world, be more loving and authentic and nurturing? Because You can get in a relationship, you can be attracted to people, but for a relationship to keep growing and maturing over time, you have to harness high vibe Leo energy and be willing to be more authentically yourself. And the other people might like to get in relationships and enjoy being in relationships, but the truth is they're always going to maybe align with their more self-protective, self-defensive nature. Or for some, the whole thing is kind of like we're all trying to manifest our dreams into reality and what we think is just and fair and what we find emotionally fulfilling. And, if someone is kind of more about the world or ego and image or money and materialism, and or maybe wanting to be the center of attention, and other people aren't about that so much and it's just more balanced, well, you kind of all like to hang out with people who are kind of on the same page as you. And we'll meet other people who do seem to kind of be more on the same page as us. And if we did get in a more mismatched relationship, or at one time it could have been more balanced and just and fair because we were helping each other get more balanced, and then it's kind of like, well, what's my truth, what's your truth? And sometimes people want to go in different directions, and maybe it just helped people get more balance and get more clear. We come together with all these different people in the world to help us get more clear about what our truth is and what our truth isn't. If people are more ego-driven, self-driven, shadowy driven, the other people could have felt a little heartbroken being in a relationship the longer they kept staying in it. And eventually it's like, why am I doing this? If I'm in a relationship with someone and I'm trying to be authentic and warm and loving and encouraging and tempering my ego nature, and I'm not being immature and competitive or trying to get people in like competitive type energy, and I'm trying to be just and fair, but they keep taking action, kind of repeating these old patterns. And the high priestess can talk about sitting back and observing it. Initially we get in it and we kind of get sucked back in it. It really kind of came into my head the other day. I remember reading a book about it, anyway, called like Transactional Analysis, I believe, or Relationships or something like that. But, we have a natural inclination. If someone that you're working with in some situation acts really kind of snarky or immature, it triggers you. You kind of naturally kind of want to come back with your own snarky, immature thing, right? And sometimes we can kind of realize that, we're kind of hanging out with people that, I don't know, keep our life kind of acting in a way that we're maybe not proud of, because high vibe Leo would be being proud of yourself, and high vibe Taurus, that you're acting with character and integrity. And, do I want to keep hanging around people that, I have to take responsibility for my own actions, but I don't even want to be around people who seem to lack some, Leo's also being illuminated to the truth, seem to lack some self-awareness that they kind of could do these kind of immature things. And I could feel like shadowy Leo is that someone's trying to manipulate you, because I love them. But then they do these kind of hurtful, kind of immature things, or that certain tone of voice, or that whatever. And it's like, grow up, And then we have to learn not to take the bait, because I don't want to just get into the whole situation of it or the argument of it. And so then the high priestess can be, I'm just going to temper my ego, sit back and observe, watch how people choose to act. I'm going to keep moving forward, maintaining my balance, staying in an energy of love, And it is kind of like holding a mirror up to people, because they might keep trying to do things to get people to take the bait. Come play in the dirt with me. And, let's both get in an argument. But let's both get mad. And I like you being in that energy because that's maybe the energy I'm in all the time. And I don't like that you seem to temper your ego and seem more balanced and seem more aligned with the energy of love. I might purposely do those things and take action to try to get you either to keep being loving and encouraging to me, or if you're not and you're sitting back and observing, then that is kind of my mode of operating. In high vibe, you're being truthful and honest and authentic and just and fair, treating people the way you like to be treated. And until we sometimes sit back and just, I'm just going to not let myself get tipped out of balance. They're going to go do what they want to do. One time I worked with someone, and oh my gosh, hearing about her home life was miserable and sad. And, we can't change other people. Again, the Five of Cups, we might have thought we could. But then again, how do we go about trying to change people? Sometimes we were both in that boat. We've all been more immature. If one person starts to get more balanced within themselves and heal and grow and mature themselves, some other people might not like it, and they might do hurtful and unkind things, try to trigger you into chasing after them or something, or acting that way again. But if it's like, I'm not going to take the bait, I'm going to let them be however they want to be, as long as somebody isn't physically hurting you. But if they're being snarky or rude, like, could you come help me with this? And they're like, saying no, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to enjoy my day, and I am going to go do that, because really, those people never helped anyway. So why every night get bent out of shape that those people aren't helping you with anything? How long have we seen this play out? And the shadowy energy can talk about how we keep repeating a pattern over and over and over. And like that person I used to work with that was telling me about her life, is just like, oh my gosh, but you already know. I mean, you can ask. It's always good to ask. But how differently would it play out maybe if you decided, oh, well, obviously you're going to stay in that job, friendship, or relationship. So how about you enjoy your life and let them, you can always ask. They can always say no. And you can go about enjoying your life, and you could have on your headphones or your music, and you could do whatever project it is that you're getting done at work or around the house, and enjoy your life. And you don't let it get you upset and in your ego, because sometimes that's what some people can do to feel powerful. Look, that would be the devil, right? Unkind, unjust, unfair people. Look what I did. I'm not working with them cooperatively. Ha! And it's kind of this false sense. Taurus energy would be about being a powerful leader in the world. This is a way that some people can try to feel powerful. Look, I got them in their ego. Look, I got them in their competitive energy. Look, I got them mad. Look, they're sad. I am so powerful. People who try to get a false sense of empowerment only have that sense of empowerment as long as it's bothering other people. As long as the other people eventually kind of see through the illusion and the manipulation of it, and it's like, I'm not going to let you wreck my day or my life. You can be hurtful and unkind, you can align with and do whatever you want to go do. I've sat back and observed long enough to see the truth, that we have different ideas of what is just and fair, and I don't find you very just, fair, loving, or emotionally mature, maybe. And eventually, I might stay in an environment for a while I do this work within myself to feel more balanced within myself and love myself. And eventually there's going to get to a point in time where people do feel much more stable, grounded, and confident within themselves, that they're going to take action in their truth and say, sorry, but I'm leaving. And then the other people are like, what? but I'm so powerful, or I have these things of the world that people want. You're supposed to come, you love me, you're supposed to keep chasing after me. Kind of say the chasing because the Chariot and the Knight of Wands is like they keep thinking loving people in their life and more emotionally stable and grounded people are going to keep pursuing them. But this one has a masculine figure in it, which can be about more taking, well, actually, this one is a masculine, this one is, and that one is. But masculine energies can be how people have taken action in the world, how people were taking action in the world, and it can mean we're operating from our more worldly egoic nature than listening to our more intuitive emotional nature. And we all have like our ego nature and our more loving intuitive nature, and we all can be tempted to take action more out of our ego nature and our want for these relationships to work out. But eventually it's the Emperor who gets in the driver's seat of the Chariot, which is Cancer energy, about love. I need to make better decisions in my life, and if I am kind of taking the reins of my dualistic nature, and I'm tempering my ego and self-disciplining myself, I want to be in relationships with other people who do that, and you're not doing that. You know, same way you get a job and then somebody is kind of like a control freak, or they're immature and bossy and controlling. Is like, oh my gosh, I feel like, you know, like could be like 45 and dealing with other 45-year-olds, and you feel like you're dealing with like 15-year-olds. It's like, oh my gosh, you people need to grow up. And then it's the battle between, do I leave the job or don't I? And I'm kind of in my ego because I wanted it to work. And I didn't, you know, we'd all like the things that we put work and effort into to work out the way we wanted. But, you know, that can be us and our ego. And it's like, I'm not going to keep staying here out of my ego or to prove a point or do this contest of wills with someone. If someone shows me they're, I don't know, got some issues they haven't dealt with, and I have offered to work together with them in a loving and encouraging and just and fair and supportive way, and they still don't get it, then I have seen the truth that you don't get it. You are not enlightened to the truth. And some people could be at that place right now. Other people have already went through this, and they're heartbroken because there's people in their life, whether they're friends or family members or neighborhood or work people, that, you know, there's people in my life I wish we could have worked things out. But we have kind of different philosophies of life and what we think is just and fair, kind of what drives and motivates us, and, you know. But high vibe people see the truth. I'm going to offer love to it. And then a lot of times, well, lately, you know, on my channel, the whole thing is about shedding old layers of ourselves. Like with my nesting dolls over there, we were 15, we let go of our more immature 15-year-old ways of being, and we faced our fears to become like an 18-year-old. And, you know, we do that throughout our life. That's how we keep growing to our full potential. And this is kind of like emotionally shedding an old layer of ourselves. And we could have shed an old layer of ourselves, and some other people in our life emotionally aren't ready to detach from an old way of life, even though it can be heartbreaking, and it can make them sad, and it can make other people sad. But if they are very stubborn, and I refuse to see the truth that I should change or heal or grow and mature myself, you know, I have this way of viewing life, and I think it's just and fair, and I'm going to keep doing it. Okay. Then we have the Ten of Pentacles, which the nines and the tens can talk about completing a cycle. Got an alarm on my phone. And the Ten of Pentacles, the 8, the 9, and the Ten of Pentacles also is Virgo energy. And in our Virgo energy, we can all want these things to work, and we can all be caught up more and fired up by the world and love these things of the world, and we want these things of the world, and sometimes we got tipped out of balance and we made those things more important in our life, or we thought other people were motivated and inspired by love, and if we put a lot of work and effort, Virgo is also earth sign energy about putting in work and effort. If I keep putting in this work and effort, I am sure they will be motivated and inspired by love. And, you know, we see the truth that people have to make that free will decision within themselves. What is their truth? And some people's truth is listening to my intuition and love to guide me. That's like unknown territory. I think I'm going to do whatever the world tells me to do, or what my family's done, or what my friends are doing. Follow that template. That's kind of what motivates and inspires me, is to make my life more conforming to the world and repeating these old patterns. I think that's just and fair. Those people could be sad that other people loved and believed in themselves and are more bold and brave and confident. But they're not willing to be more bold and brave and confident, or shine their authentic light, or be more independent. High Virgo, especially in the Ten of Pentacles, is like, I have learned, because the Pentacles can be all these different lessons that I've learned. I've learned everything I needed to learn at this phase of life. There's nothing new to learn here. I can keep repeating it because in my ego, I'm afraid of moving forward in life differently, and I'm afraid of loving and believing in myself and listening to my intuition, because I'm going to move into unknown territory. Just like when we got our first job and we had to go get a second job, that was scary. When we had to move out of home to go live on our own, that was scary. When we got out of one friendship group to get in a different friendship group, or out of one romantic relationship to get in another. All those things were scary things, because it was unknown territory. But, the more you're kind of bold and brave and confident, it doesn't mean you weren't scared. But you maintained balance within yourself. You believed in yourself. You listened to your intuition, that you didn't want to keep repeating an old pattern over and over. Because you knew the only reason you could maybe keep doing it over and over and over was more in your ego, out of fear. And I don't like my fear manipulating me. And I think I've learned everything I needed to learn here. And after the Ten of Pentacles, then we have these two cards next to each other, which look like pregnant women, emotionally, whether we're male or female, because the females represent how we think and feel. I am ready to give birth to something new. And then with both of these cards kind of like being out in nature, that is kind of going with the flow of life. We were, just like we weren't meant to stay and live like a 15-year-old all our life, we're meant to listen to our intuition, to see when a phase of life, we've learned everything we needed to learn from that phase of life. It's time to listen to our intuition, to face our fears, to give birth to something new. And then we have the Ten of Swords. So again, completing a cycle. And, at the end of, in tarot, it depends on how much you listen to tarot, but we have the 7 and the 8 and the 9 and the 10, and those are all really challenging energies, because we are so tempted to turn back and do life the way we've been doing it, and maybe just stay up in our head and stay up in our fear. And then the 8, the 9, and the 10 of Swords is Gemini energy, which is about our dualistic free will nature. We kind of have to put an end to an old way we had of viewing life and living life. And after the Ten of Swords, we come out with the Ace of Swords. And after the Ten of Pentacles, we come out with the Ace of Pentacles. We see what's dead and over, and all it does is cause us stress and anxiety and keep us up in our head, and we work through all the mental conflict, and we got to the truth. No more Pisces energy here can talk about caught up in illusion that we all could have been. And then we have the Queen of Swords, which is I have a dream emotionally. And I did do all this work to look at life from a higher perspective. And there were some people in my life that I was sad about. I wished them energetically peace and love. When I was in a relationship, I probably did try to offer them truth and love and inspire them to love and believe in themselves. But they have their own journey to go on, and they have their own free will. And some people don't look at life from a higher perspective. Some people keep staying up in their head, up in their fear and their insecurity, or their more in their ego or their lust or their greed or whatever they think is just and fair, that they think is the answer to their problems. And it's certainly maybe not love. And they've put it in perspective. And initially, when all of this was going through, they could have felt, the Queen of Swords can talk about feeling betrayed. But as they keep doing this work, that's where love is the answer. But you have to, in this Virgo energy, do this inner work emotionally. If I have a dream of something I want to give birth to, emotionally, a dream, in the 3D world, and High Vibe Virgo is about working together with other people who've learned a lot of lessons in life, who have self-awareness, are conscientious and self-aware, and I believe, it's represented as the maiden, kind of have given birth. It's this whole thing of death and rebirth. I put an old end to an old way of being to give birth to a new way of being. I have freed myself from the things that used to manipulate me and limit me and restrict me and confine me and impress me and imprison me. Because high vibe energy in truth and love is we offer people truth and love if those people don't want to work together with us in a more emotionally balanced, just and fair and loving, self-aware, insightful manner, putting in work and effort from a foundation of treating other people the way they like to be treated. Well, they're going to try to build a foundation on some other idea. And the other people have done that too, and they know it doesn't work out the way you think it's going to work out. And so out of a place of love, they also give birth to putting an end to feeling betrayed. And they're no longer going to probably have much to do in the 3D world with some of those people in their life. Because those people are inspired to live their life differently. For some of them, it's just their ego. For some, they'd have to speak their truth. And they're not willing to do that. Get out of their ego. Get out of their defensiveness. To work together with people in a more emotionally balanced, loving way, and they're not willing to do that. Some people don't want to be in that kind of relationship. I want it to be more about me. I'm going to go present myself as loving to some people who are sad and heartbroken. I like to view myself as loving. I'll go present myself as loving to them. They'll view me as loving. I'll be in my pride and glory. People view me as loving. I feel like I'm loving. But the only problem is eventually it might not turn out the way they want, because the other people do this work within themselves. So it's kind of the difference in why you could have been drawn and attracted to some people. They do seem like very, maybe to their own degree, like these loving, nurturing, encouraging people. And they were. And it could have helped you heal yourself and feel more balanced within yourself and work through some of your issues. The only problem is they're kind of in their ego where they don't think they have any issues to work through. And when the people they get in a relationship with are ready to move forward and give birth to something new, then in their Queen of Swords energy, they're defensive to that. No, you were supposed to give up your dream, Aquarius energy represented by the stars, about your dreams. And they're like, well, no. It's kind of like, how about I act loving, you act loving, we be like loving, but we keep doing this over and over. I don't want to give birth to anything new. I have this way of living life that I think is just and fair, and I want to stay here. I don't want to have to let go of this old way where we really do give birth to something new. I kind of like the illusion of acting like I'm willing to give birth to something new, but then I put an end to that dream because I am kind of more aligned with the world, and I don't want to shine my authentic light, and I don't want to really be more authentically myself. And then other people realize that, and then some of the people in their life aren't willing to. It's like, well, you gave the impression that you were this loving person, that this dream was going to come into reality. And so then, thank you. It did motivate me and inspire me to, and you could have been a loving and encouraging person in my life. Thank you. And I did this work and effort to free myself of things that manipulated me. Well, now I want to give birth to that dream. And that's when they're like, oh, well, sorry, that was just kind of an illusion. I wasn't really willing to do that. I kind of like to, I like to do all of this because it works good for my ego and my image. And if I get people to like heal or grow and mature themselves, I look like this wonderful, amazing person. But I don't have anything. It's kind of like this teacher becomes a student and they don't ever want to be a student of life. Like after the Ten of Pentacles, also, you would be like the Page of Pentacles, which is willing to be a student of life, that I have more lessons to learn in life. And some people are like, oh, it could even be a role they play in the world. They don't know it, and other people don't know it. That they can play this role in people's life. Those people move on and really do get back up on their feet again and maybe go give birth to something new. And they were just like a helper person in their life. They were thinking, of course, that people would keep staying in the relationship and they'd never have to give birth to anything new. It's kind of like having a child, but you want them to grow up to act more like an adult, but they still stay codependent. And you still get to be like the boss or something, These people don't want a more just and fair and balanced relationship. They like the more imbalanced relationship. And then when it gets more balanced and people are more confident and balanced and healed, then, and who knows, maybe people have different purposes in life. And then it's kind of like their intuition is almost called to go and repeat this pattern with someone else, and other people got to get out of their ego about it. Everything doesn't turn out the way we want, but this could have been something that helped you get more balanced and stable within yourself. Let's go see what's coming up. And then, as high vibe people are moving forward in life, they're working more with people who they think really do want to give birth to something new. But as you're moving forward in life, we have our dualistic nature is what these two could. Well, I think I looked it up, and a lot of cards represent the fixed sign energy. And maybe the Wheel of Fortune represents the fixed sign energy, where there's a part of us that wants to keep giving birth to this old pattern, because we all have fear about doing something new and detaching from an old foundation. But our high vibe nature wants us to give birth to something new. But we're maintaining balance, where it's like we could both sides of our dualistic nature in a way want to give birth to something new, but we're trying to kind of find a compromise so neither one of us gets backstabbed. Like our shadow immature nature can't get in the driver's seat. It can't just be our loving hope. We have to be like a loving, nurturing person to like our more worldly, shadowy nature, like our more immature inner child. And to find a compromise. And I do view high vibe Ten of Pentacles as a compromise, because Taurus energy is also represented by the Five of Pentacles. And when we have the Five of Pentacles and the Five of Pentacles, and they're working together more from hope and faith and belief and love, we can have a more balanced relationship. So can we have people some people are a little more about the world, and some people are a little more loving. Yeah, if we equally value what the other person brings to the table, that they're both valuable, and together we can work together. And the main philosophy is that we do want to give birth to something new, and hopefully operating from high vibe Virgo's truth and love. But can some people be more worldly focused, driven in their career? Other people maybe be more the loving, nurturing person who provides those things? Yeah. So long as both people appreciate that not one isn't kind of more important to a degree than the other. I mean, I kind of think love always kind of tips in favor, but we work together to, in truth and love, to not sabotage a relationship and to keeping life in perspective. So I think high vibe people are giving birth to something new that's very stable and abundant in a lot of ways. And I think when we act in more immature and prideful ways, we might not be seeing that we're kind of hurting ourselves and maybe hurting others. But as long as that's how we view life, we'll probably think it's just and fair. And some of the people who are more worldly focused, of course, in Capricorn energy, they could look very victorious. The Chariot talks about victory. They could move forward in a way that by worldly standards looks, and by Taurus energy and Leo energy, looks like they're shining very bright, that they're moving forward very victoriously, might have status and image and money. But again, it's kind of the illusion that it's inspired by love, but it could be more of a strategy, living more from their mind than their heart. What's coming up for people who harness some high vibe Capricorn energy that they might not see coming up? The Two of Cups. Why? Because of the Ace of Pentacles. We can all kind of be tipped out of balance. We can all feel sad. We can all feel betrayed. We can all feel scared of moving forward in something new. But as we keep in the Ace of Pentacles, our Virgo nature does this inner work to keep offering us the truth and love and encouragement, to keep doing this work within ourselves, to work through our pain and our heartbreak and our mental confusion, trying to wrap our brain around this game of life. I mean, we might not know. We don't know. Maybe some people did sign up. I want to be a helper person. I want to be someone who gets in relationships with people to pick them back up. But if I keep staying in a relationship, then there's all these other people I can't help. Will it hurt the people I don't keep staying in a relationship with? But I help them get back up on their feet and they're moving on now. I want to be someone to go help other people. And there might be a lot of other people in the world, and those people too, who view me as an egotistical or unjust or manipulative person. And maybe that is the price to be someone who plays that role in people's lives in the world, whatever we got to do to wrap our brain around this game of life. So as you do that work within yourself, it helps you get more balance within yourself. And as you get more balance within yourself, you're ready to move forward in life in these new relationships. And then I think as you're in that energy and people see you in that energy and you've worked through your pain and heartbreak and being in your ego about past pain and heartbreak and unkind people or whatever, and you're no longer in the energy of feeling betrayed, other people see that you are ready to move forward. Because there could be people who would like to be in a relationship with other people, but they're not going to get in a relationship so long as they still think they're in this kind of hung up on someone from the past, right? Because I don't want to get in a relationship with them and they're still kind of battling what their dream is. Am I really ending that? Emotionally I'm still invested. And what if that person sees me move forward with someone else and then they decide to come towards me and I'm still caught up in the illusion of who they are? When we're going to move forward in a relationship with someone new, it's to be committed to that new relationship and hopefully have done this work within ourselves. Now, the people who might have more, the Three of Swords, can talk about people who have conflict between their mind and their heart. those people maybe didn't do that work. And they could have, maybe out of ego or lust or greed or sadness, thought, I know, I'm going to just go get in a new relationship. That's the answer. And that one seems to be over anyway. Well, what if then something is not over or something, and then they're still wanting to go back and get in that other relationship, you know? High vibe people only want to get in relationships with people who they think are really over with the past thing. And the other high vibe people, I don't want to get myself involved in another relationship till I'm over this old thing. And that Virgo energy talks about taking this time alone to reconcile through all of this. To be clear about your truth, I am ready to put in work and effort into something new. I have worked through the emotional confusion and the heartbreak and all that, and I am emotionally ready for a new beginning in truth and love. So I think you're going to have those new beginnings. What about people who are in shadowy energy or more worldly? We have a card not showing itself, and the reason is because of the Judgment card. What is the card? The Leo Strength card. Well, anytime there's people in the world that either are kind of more stubborn, more about themselves, more immature, have some lessons to learn in life, haven't healed from some past pain and heartbreak, they're always going to have some people in their life that are more high vibe, that have been trying to offer them love and encouragement to move forward. And eventually those people can't keep staying in denial of the truth. And they make a decision. I wish you peace, but I'm going to move on because I am ready to give birth to something new. And I have worked through my past pain and heartbreak and feeling betrayed. And I am ready to put in work and effort into a relationship based on love. But you don't seem to be there. So I wish you peace. And I'm going to go find the people in the world who are. And some of the people, you know, if you're not being truthful and honest and authentic, sometimes it can be that you're trying to manipulate and control people, hoping maybe some loving, nurturing people will stay in your life, even though that's not who you are. What they don't see coming is some of the more authentic, loving people in the world. You know, there's going to be more people calling judgment on them. And the whole thing is, when we were all younger, we could have put up with more people's shit, you know. But as everybody keeps getting older, when people repeat some poor past patterns, other people are like, what? What are you doing? I mean, I used to date people when I was maybe 18 or 21 who kind of acted like that and kind of more manipulative or more immature. I thought we were more mature people than that. And, you know, people aren't going to keep putting up with people who are operating more from their ego. And some of these people don't want to see the truth, and they keep thinking that they can just hide that they operate more from their ego nature and that they are more immature and indulgent and more about themselves and more manipulative. But other people eventually kind of listen to their intuition and see the truth, and eventually people call judgment on them, and then they could be hiding their kind of in their ego. Because if you are kind of immature and self-indulgent, you kind of indulge yourself, and you kind of think other people should indulge you, and then you're kind of in your ego when other people aren't willing to indulge you. And they could wonder why do people, I could seem to have the same level of attractiveness, social clout, money, status, power, whatever. Why do some people go get in relationships, maybe even with people who hurt them, maybe even with people who betrayed them before? Why do they invest in those people? Well, because they could have seen the truth that they were acting kind of that we've all got lessons to learn in life. And you can reconcile yourself with people because you know they were authentic and loving people, and that you are maybe kind of immature or defensive or fearful or heartbroken. They could have been, you hadn't worked through your issues, and you reconcile with people because at a core level, you know they were a loving person. you don't think that they were someone who was really trying to manipulate you, was more prideful or egotistical. But for the people who really are that kind of way and don't really work together with people from a foundation of love, people can be attracted to them and want to get in a relationship with them, could think they're more on the same page in a lot of ways, but they weren't realizing maybe that was more of their ego or their fear that was driving them, because they weren't really ready to invest in love. And some of these people who are like this, who have people leave relationships, wonder why people keep putting in so much work and effort into these other people. It's like, because those people, high vibe energy is about being authentically who you say you are. That you do want to give birth to something new. You're not trying to repeat old patterns. You're not repeating old patterns. You're working together with people to give birth to something new. And some of these other people, they're like, well, no, I don't want to. I want to behave the same way in my old relationship I did in this relationship, or the way I did since I was a child. It's like, well, the people they get in a relationship with aren't the same people. And if you're going to work together with others, in your Taurus, Five of Pentacles, you each have your own way of viewing life, and it's about working together and compromising and working through those things for the common goal that you're kind of creating. And that can be another thing that some people don't get. Well, no, I have a dream. I have an idea. They should put an end to their dream, and they should make their life about my dream and how I view life. And some of these people will never get it, because it's all about, well, if I act like this and I talk like this and I dress like this and I do this and I do that, I seem just like those people. They should want to be in a relationship with me. It's like, but yours is a mental construct. Theirs is like the real deal. And there really is substance. Again, I view Capricorn as the King of Pentacles. Anybody can present themselves. Look what I look like. Look what I wear. Look at the job I have. Look at the money I have. Look how attractive I am, or whatever. And I can seem like this stable, grounded, emotionally mature person who really is that, because they really did learn these lessons in life, have dealt with their past pain and heartbreak to learn lessons and still do love. And who are the people who are just trying to create an illusion of being that, but they still haven't worked through those issues, but they're just trying to create the illusion that they're motivated, they're a more emotionally mature, stable, grounded person than they really are. So high vibe people, I think, are going to have new, authentic beginnings that are very stable and abundant in lots of ways, because they invest in love. And I just think when we plant bad seeds, it doesn't turn out the way we want. Could people get people to stay in a relationship with them? Could they look very successful in the world? Sure. But it isn't because they've tempered their ego. It might be because they're preying on people or emotionally manipulating and controlling people using these things of the world instead of love. So there you go, Capricorn. I wish you peace, love, and joy, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.